Welcome back. In less than a month, Hagerstown residents will be faced with the decision of re-electing either incumbent Mayor David Gysberts or former Mayor Bob Bruchey. We've got to hear from both of these candidates this week at the local Chamber of Commerce Mayoral Forum. The two candidates, and both of them happen to be personal friends of mine, so I'm not really going to make a decision here, and I think they both did very well during the forum, incidentally. I think in terms of one being the incumbent and offering a lot of facts to back up his position, and one being the challenger and offering a lot of very good questions. What do you folks think about exactly what they brought and what some of their stances and everything were?
Well, I think one of the common themes between both candidates was home ownership and also housing and rent versus own options. How do we attract the right people to purchase homes, or if you've purchased a home, how can you then have enough money to be able to add improvements to keep the city beautiful. I myself live in the city and took special note to those items that they mentioned. But the biggest one for me was job creation and what their opinions were on how to generate those jobs and how to attract businesses to the city of Hagerstown.
Jim?
So when the question specifically was name three priorities, and I watched the segments over and over a couple times, and Bob brought to the table addressing the deficit, addressing the drug problem, home ownership, and jobs. Mayor Gysberts brought investment, housing, and he was talking about housing specifically. He spoke to removing blight and preventing decreased property values, so keeping the property values up or increasing for the homeowners. And then image, changing the story of Hagerstown. I guess looking at both candidates, from Bob's perspective, I think Bob's thought process about addressing the deficit was important. I know that one of the things that Bob said was the 15.7% tax increase that has happened, which Mayor Gysberts pointed out then later that really it's the same rate as was in effect when Bob left office, but the reality is that the city residents got a tax decrease, and then we kind of increased it again. They got a decrease when the county stopped doing the co-tax, or whatever you call that, Ron.
Tax differential.
Tax differential, but then we raised it back up. So from that perspective, I think that addressing the deficit is a good thing, and hopefully without a lot of tax increases. From Mayor Gysbert's perspective, I like the thought process of changing the story of Hagerstown. I think that's an important piece because, as we've talked about on this panel many times in the past, it's not all reality, it's perception.
Absolutely. Mr. Bowers, what say you?
I've had a chance to work over the years with Bob Bruchey. I like Bob. I think his heart's in the right place. He's got ideas that sometimes are older ideas that maybe polished up a little bit would really be good now. I like David. David, I think, has brought a new vision into the equation of how to run the city of Hagerstown. There's so much to do that I think together it can be done, and I think the report that came in from urban planners is being used and followed. I like what's happening. I think both candidates support what they want to do downtown Hagerstown with that $30 million investment to include the theater, the Barbara Ingram School for the Arts, the Bead Company building and the Susquehanna Bank building, and what John Barr, Greg Snook, and Paul Crampton want to do. There's a lot there that can be accomplished, and I hope that it can happen. And I think together we can get it done. The public has a good choice here between Bob Bruchey and between Mayor Gysberts. They both bring unique, different qualities to the table.
I'm going to agree with you, and I think you stole some of the thunder from the comment I was going to make. Unlike on a national scale, we seem to be in a position that regardless who wins the mayoral race in this town, we win as the citizens of Hagerstown.
Yeah.
They talked about, obviously, the things that they wanted to fix, but they also talked about the things that are working in Hagerstown right now. So, Danielle, what did you think about what they had to say about that?
Again, the shared vision and perception idea, I know that it's a priority for both of them. And to your point about the significant investment that was made in developing the plan, I'm really glad to see that they're adopting it and using it this time. The other thing I wanted to bring up is the baseball field. They have a bit of agreement on this time around in terms of it being an economic driver and attracting people to come to our city, and I really think that that's what we need.
Absolutely.
I wanted to see them add a question into the mix of, give us your plan of how you would work with an extended lease, not a 2-year lease, but a 10-year or 18-year lease, and then how you would adjust redoing the field and the stadium as you go forward with that. Bob Bruchey said, nobody sit down and talk to Bruce Quinn. You got to sit down and talk to the owner of the team. So somewhere along the line, I think somebody's got to come up and say, let's sit down with Bruce. Bruce, are you going to come to town and meet with us? Or is there a possibility for a 20-year lease if we do $10 million worth of improvements close to where we are?
Well, I think obviously the conversation has gone back and forth, and I know the team entertained some offers that didn't quite percolate through, so I think at this point in time they certainly would have the incentive. Jim, would you like to add anything?
So I need to add, out of full disclosure, the fact that Bob Bruchey works for my production company. So I am trying to be very, I do have an opinion personally, but I'm going to keep that to myself for multiple reasons. But I think the shared vision is a good thing. I think some of the things that Bob brought out was the university system of Maryland and the expansion, the fairgrounds, park, the golf course. Those are all amenities, which I think we do very, very well with. The turning liabilities into assets, I think is a good idea, but I think we need to be cost conscious on that. I don't want to see us buy even a bargain basement type of property and then spend all of this money on it and sell it for half of what we got into it. There are some buildings that are historic, there are some buildings that are old, and we need to keep the historic ones, we need to level the old ones.
Obviously, I think there's a balance there, but Jim, I think you get the last word on that.
Okay.
So, on that happy note, next up, Fast 5. Stay tuned.